First off, it's a long road, and it's not an easy one. I'm a father before I'm even a coach, and the patterns that I followed, not necessarily the correct ones early, was a learned experience. So well-intended, loving parents don't necessarily always say the right thing in a moment where they're being viewed upon others on a success or failure of their child. So for the parent, if anything, to again look at it as an opportunity to spend this time. I can tell you, for me, my experiences with my daughter, it was the car rides, it was the Del Taco trips, because she had to have Del Taco every time before she played. Those moments that, now that she's in college and she's not in the car with me on a ride, that I genuinely miss even more than her being in a batter's box or her being on the field. Those experiences were great, but just knowing that we would, argue over what music we were going to listen to, hit the Del Taco, hit a Starbucks on the way out. Those are all things that I don't get back at this point, until hopefully maybe a grandchild that maybe would want to play for me. I doubt it, but maybe would want to play for me. For the parents to really just kind of take that in. And I know it's, from the outside, it's like, oh, you shut up, man. We just want to win. But the reality is, when you look back at it, not many people are going to remember the result of a 12U friendly or a 14U friendly or any of those things. What they're going to remember are the experiences with those other kids, with your own kids, with those family life experiences that you're going to have and value. And the years that we won, and I can tell you this, we've had successes of winning a national championship. We've had years of finishing second or third. We've had years where we were 0-2 and out, and as a favorite, looked at as very much of a disappointment. I can tell you, in many of those years, the experience of our team was even better than the experience of winning the national championship, because our culture and our environment was stronger and better than the year we actually won. So the winning is great, but the reality is, if I was to describe out the experiences of each journey, the journey was maybe a little more enjoyable on years where we didn't necessarily win the championship. So it's easy, again, that trophy's nice, and I'm not going to deny that it wasn't a great experience, but ultimately we're, and hopefully at some point we'll hit it all together, where that experience and the road and the journey will all be that, and then ultimately the championship will be in place with it. But again, it can be misleading to think that a team that wins is everything is in place to be a great experience, right? Those experiences of some of those other teams were even more gratifying than the year that we actually were national champions. It's a fine line. Yeah. It's a fine line. I think some of it you probably know. I have two daughters. My oldest ultimately left softball at like 11 or 12 and played soccer. She says because of me, but I can even think back to 7 and 8 and what it was like for me just to want to go out and work on a tee or something, versus what Amanda was like and her more of a desire to go. So some of it you might even know. So looking back, I knew Vanessa wasn't as motivated to be a softball player as what maybe Amanda was. So then some of that's just going to happen by nature of who they are. So there's a balance. Obviously, when they're young, parents need to guide and to put them in there, because they're going to generally think they don't want to go there because they're nervous about it. Ultimately, though, the player will typically show themselves as to what their desires are, right? And then, so now it's a matter of a parent who understands what their child wants versus a parent who's looking to get something maybe that they want. Right, and I'm an athlete, and I obviously was hoping my daughters were going to play sports, but like when Vanessa decided she didn't want to play, I knew it wasn't a good idea for me to force her to play. She chose soccer, and then for me, if it was a matter of, as long as you're inactive in something, she could have played piano. As long as she had a commitment to something that where she could go through her young ages of life and have life lessons to be learned, and she chose the soccer field, and and that was fine. But ultimately, forcing them into something that they maybe don't want to do isn't so great. Now, it doesn't mean you don't remind them, hey, let's go back and hit. There's a difference. Hey, let's go, I'm going to roll you the ball. And, genuinely, they're going to show you. So there's a balance between what you should be pushing and with what they should be kind of pushing to you. For me, it's always nice when that athlete or that child will say, hey, let's go work. Like my Amanda would be one, hey, we haven't hit in 2 days. So we need to go out and hit. And that means I was like, okay, I like that. So.